I 29 male work in tech sales. My girlfriend moved into house I own. She works in PR, making a decent entry-level salary, but she came into the relationship with significant student loans and credit card debt from a study abroad semester that turned into a European shopping spree. When she moved in, we had a serious discussion about finances. I told her I would cover the mortgage, all the utilities, the internet, and the groceries. Her only financial responsibility was to pay down her own debt. On top of that, because I knew things were tight for her and I wanted her to feel comfortable, I set up a recurring transfer of $500 a month to her account. I called it a stress reliever, money for her nails, coffee, or whatever she wanted so she didn't feel pinched while paying off her loans. I genuinely thought I was being a supportive partner. I didn't realize I was just subsidizing her delusion. The shift happened when she started hanging out with a new group of friends from her yoga studio about 3 months ago. These women were flashy. Designer everything, trips to the Loom every other weekend, constant brunches at places where an omelet cost $35. My girlfriend started coming home from these outings moody and critical. Suddenly, my truck wasn't rugged, it was old. My house wasn't cozy, it needed updating. She started making little comments about how cheap I was because I preferred cooking steaks at home on the grill rather than going to a steakhouse where the same meal costs 4 times as much. Last Sunday was the breaking point. She came home from a girls' brunch and slammed her purse on the counter. She didn't say hello or give me a hug. She just stared at me while I was meal prepping for the week. I asked her how her day was, and she just rolled her eyes. "We need to talk about my allowance," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. I paused, knife in hand, confused. I asked her to clarify what she meant. "The money you give me," she scoffed, crossing her arms and leaning against the fridge. "It's embarrassing. I was talking to the girls today. One of her friend's boyfriends gives her $2,000 a month. Another gets her rent paid plus a shopping budget of $1,500. They looked at me like I was a charity case when I told them you only give me $500. I put the knife down, wiped my hands, and turned to face her. The entitlement in her voice wasn't just annoying, it was corrosive. I tried to reason with her. I reminded her that I pay the mortgage, the food, the electric bill, the water, the internet. And I give her $500 cash, tax-free, just to be nice. I pointed out that the boyfriend she was comparing me to is a married man in his 50s that her friend sees twice a week. She snapped at me, telling me not to judge her friends. She said it shows how much he values her. Then she dropped a line that made my blood run cold. She said if I actually cared about her lifestyle, I would step up. She said I make enough, and I'm just hoarding it. Then she told me it's financial abuse to keep her at a lower standard of living than me. That phrase, financial abuse. She threw it out so casually, weaponizing a serious term to extort money from me. That was the moment the switch flipped. The love I had for her didn't just fade. It evaporated, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. I realized I wasn't a partner to her. I was an ATM that wasn't dispensing enough cash. Interesting comparison, I said, keeping my voice dangerously level. "So you want what they have?" She smirked, thinking she had won. She said she wanted to be treated like a high-value woman. Yes, she wanted $2,000 a month, or she was going to have to rethink this relationship. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. I told her she was right. The $500 is insulting because it implies she can't take care of herself. I canceled the recurring transfer right there in front of her. Then I opened the credit card app for the supplementary card I gave her for emergencies, which she used for gas and groceries, and locked it. "Done," I said. She smiled, looking smug. She asked if the $2,000 starts on the first of the month. I looked her dead in the eye and told her no. The $500 ends today. The credit card is locked. If she wants the lifestyle her friends have, she should go ask their boyfriends for it, because clearly I can't afford her. Her face dropped. She told me to stop joking and that I couldn't just cut her off. I told her to watch me. I reminded her she has a job and a salary and lives rent-free. If that's not enough, she was welcome to leave. I walked out of the kitchen and went to my home office, locking the door behind me. I could hear her pacing outside, muttering angrily. I knew this wasn't over. People like her don't handle the word. No, well, but I had no idea how low she was about to sink. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. A notification from American Express. Transaction declined. Neiman Marcus, $2,850. She wasn't just mad. She tried to max out the card on a designer bag immediately after our argument, thinking she could force the charge through before I really cut her off. She was trying to rob me on her way out. I walked out of the office. She was in the living room, frantically tapping on her phone, her face red. When she saw me, she threw a decorative vase, one my mother gave me, across the room. It shattered against the wall. She screamed that I had humiliated her and that her card got declined in front of everyone online. I looked at the shards of the vase. I told her she just broke my property, an attempted theft, after I told her the financial support was over. I gave her two choices: calm down, or I called the police to file a report for domestic disturbance and attempted fraud. She froze. The mention of police brought her back to reality. She grabbed her keys and told me she was going to her friend's house, the one with the rich boyfriend. She said a real man takes care of his woman, and not to expect her back until I apologized and fixed the transfer. She stormed out. I waited until I heard her car start. Then I went straight to the guest bedroom where she kept her home office set up. I needed to know what I was dealing with. She had left her iPad unlocked on the bed. I opened her messages. I know, invasion of privacy, but after the attempted theft, I felt justified. What I found in the group chat named the Bag Chasers made my stomach turn. It wasn't just complaints. It was a strategy guide on how to bleed me dry. The group chat was a masterclass in manipulation. I scrolled back months. Her friends were coaching her. I saw messages where she complained I was stingy because I put money into an index fund instead of upgrading her flight. Her friend told her to stop asking and just take. She suggested using the emergency card for groceries, but buying gift cards at Whole Foods, then reselling them or using them for herself. I felt the blood rushing to my ears. I checked my statements. Sure enough, there were inconsistent charges at grocery stores over the last 3 months, amounts like $300 or $400. I had assumed she was buying high-end ingredients or stocking up. She was laundering my money. Then I saw the messages from that morning, sent while we were arguing. She told the group I cut her off. Her friend told her to leave me and come stay with them. Then my ex asked if that guy, Mark, still needed a travel companion for his Dubai trip, the one who pays $5,000. Her friend said yes, but warned he was intense. My ex replied that if I didn't pay up, she was done being a good girl and deserved that money. She wasn't just venting. She was actively looking to sell herself because I stopped giving her an allowance. The woman I had introduced to my parents, the woman I planned to propose to next year, was plotting to become a high-end escort because $500 of free money wasn't enough. I took screenshots. All of them. The theft strategy, the insults, the plans to meet Mark. I emailed them to myself and saved them to a secure hard drive. For the next 3 days, the house was blissful silence. But the harassment started online. Her friends began sending me messages from burner accounts calling me broke and saying I didn't deserve her. I didn't respond. I was busy. I live in a state where tenancy laws are strict. Even though she wasn't on the deed or formal lease, because she had lived there for 6 months and received mail there, she was a tenant at will. I couldn't just change the locks. That would be an illegal eviction, and she could sue me for damages. I needed to do this by the book. I hired a process server. I knew exactly where she was. I had the server deliver a formal 30-day notice to quit to her personally at her friend's apartment. This is a legal document required to terminate a month-to-month tenancy. When she got served, she called me immediately. I let it go to voicemail. She left a screaming message saying I couldn't evict her because she lived there. She threatened to sue me for emotional distress and claimed her lawyer said we had a common law marriage, so she was entitled to half the house. I laughed. We don't live in common law state, and even if we did, 6 months doesn't qualify. She was grasping at straws. 2 weeks passed. The silence from her end grew suspicious. I expected more rage, but instead, I got radio silence. Then I found out why. I got a notification from my car insurance app. The vehicle location updated to an impound lot. The car she drove was a BMW X3. I bought it. The title was in my name, and I paid the insurance. I let her drive it as her daily vehicle. She had parked it illegally in a tow zone outside a nightclub at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. I went to the impound lot to retrieve it. The interior was trashed. Empty coffee cups glittering, stuffed in the glove box, a crumpled hotel receipt under the name mark. She had actually gone through with it. I drove the car home, had it detailed, and parked it in my garage. I removed her from the insurance policy immediately. Since the car was 100% my property, I was under no obligation to provide her with transportation. That evening, she called again. This time, she wasn't screaming. She was crying. She told me her car was gone, and she thought it was stolen. She asked me to pick her up. I told her calmly it wasn't stolen. It was towed. I picked it up, and it was in my garage. She sighed with relief and asked me to bring it to her friend's place because she had a job interview the next day. I said no. She asked what I meant. I told her it's my car. She doesn't live here anymore, or she won't in 14 days when her notice expires. She isn't my girlfriend. Why would I let her drive my BMW? She shrieked, asking how she was supposed to get to work. I told her to ask her friend, or Mark. Maybe Mark could buy her a car with the money he gave her. Dead silence on the line. She knew I knew. She tried to stammer out an explanation, but I cut her off. I told her not to bother. I laid out the situation. She had remaining items in my house, which I had packed into boxes. She had until the 30th day to collect them. If she came onto property before then without a police escort, I would have her arrested for trespassing. If she wasn't out by the 30th, I would file for an unlawful detainer eviction, which would go on her public record and make it impossible for her to ever rent a decent apartment again. She hung up. I thought the war was won. I thought she would just fade away. But entitled people are like cornered rats. They bite. The next day, I got a call from my HR department. The HR director sounded stiff. She told me they received a complaint. An anonymous tip claiming I was using company funds for personal expenses and that I had a substance abuse problem. My heart hammered against my ribs, but I kept my cool. I told her that was absolutely false. I offered to provide all my expense reports and take a drug test immediately. She said she knew it was likely false because the email came from a generic address and the language used felt personal, but corporate policy dictated they had to investigate. She was trying to sabotage my career. She knew how much I valued my reputation. This was a dirty trick phase. She wanted to burn my life down because she couldn't control it. I immediately forwarded the screenshots of her text messages to my HR director, specifically the ones where she threatened to make him pay and ruin him, which I had found on the iPad. I explained the breakup and the extortion attempt. I told HR I was in the process of a legal eviction against my ex-girlfriend, and she had threatened retaliation because I had the receipts, the timestamps, the threats, the evidence of her character. HR closed the investigation within 24 hours. But now, the gloves were off. I was done playing defense. I decided to check on the friends she was staying with. A little digging and a few bucks on a background check site revealed the truth about her friend's rich boyfriend lifestyle. Her friend didn't have a boyfriend. She was being sued by her apartment complex for 3 months of unpaid rent. The luxury photos were all staged or taken on trips funded by credit card debt that was currently in collections. My ex had blown up her stable, debt-free life with me to chase a mirage of wealth that didn't exist. Day 29 arrived, the day before she had to be officially out. She texted me asking if we could talk. She said she was coming over alone, just to get her boxes and talk. I didn't reply, but I unlocked the gate. I wanted her to see the house one last time. I wanted her to see what she threw away. She arrived in an Uber. She looked terrible. The glam makeup was gone. Her hair was messy, and she looked thinner. The high life at her friend's place evidently involved sleeping on a couch and dodging debt collectors. She walked in and saw the boxes stacked neatly by the door. She started crying instantly. She told me she didn't mean it. She claimed her friend made her send the email to my job. She said she was desperate because her friend was kicking her out for not paying rent. She admitted Mark was a disaster who treated her like garbage and blocked her. She reached out to touch my arm. I took a step back. She whispered that she missed us and missed her home. She said she was sorry, she was ungrateful, and learned her lesson. She begged me to let her come back, promising she would go back to the $500 allowance and wouldn't complain. It was pathetic. She was bargaining for her old life back, not because she loved me, but because the alternative was hard work. I looked at her cold and told her she tried to get me fired. She tried to destroy my livelihood. That isn't a mistake, that's malice. She cried that she was hurting. I told her she was greedy, and now she was homeless. She screamed that I couldn't do this to her, and she had nowhere to go because her parents wouldn't take her in due to a fight they had. Ah, yes, her conservative, religious parents. I had almost forgotten about them. I smiled a small, dark smile. I told her she should actually call her dad, because I had a long talk with him the day before. Her face went pale. She asked what I did. I told her I sent them the screenshots, too. All of them. The ones about her selling herself to Mark. The ones about her stealing from me via the grocery gift card scheme. The ones where she called her mother a controlling prude who doesn't understand the modern woman. She gagged. Literally gagged. I told her he was very disappointed. But he said if she comes home, she's at church every Sunday. She surrendered her phone, and she's working at the family hardware store until she pays off her debts. He was waiting for her call. She looked at me with pure hatred and told me I ruined her life. I corrected her. I said I just stopped financing the lie. The Uber was waiting. I told her to get her boxes. She screamed. She cried. She begged. But eventually, she loaded the boxes into the Uber. She tried to take the 65-inch TV on her way out, claiming it was a gift because she watched it the most. I told her the receipt was in my name, and if she touched it, I would call the cops for theft again. She left it. As the car drove away, I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel lonely. I felt a massive weight lift off my chest. The house was quiet, clean, and mine. The aftermath was swift. I changed the locks an hour later. I installed cameras. I heard through the grapevine that she did move back in with her parents. Her influencer life is over. No more brunch photos, no more trips. Just a shift at a hardware store in a small town 3 hours away. Her credit scores tanked because I reported the unauthorized grocery charges on the supplementary card as fraud before I paid them off. The bank investigation proved the card was used for gift card cycling, which violated the terms, and since I had the chat logs proving her intent. She is liable for that debt now. Her friend was evicted 2 weeks later. It turns out, when you base your self-worth on spending men's money, and the men disappear, the world comes crashing down very fast. I took the money I was saving on her allowance, her groceries, and the utilities she wasted, and I booked a solo trip to Japan. Business class. Because I can afford it when I'm not supporting a parasite. Looking back, I realize I ignored the red flags because I wanted to be the provider. I thought money could buy gratitude. It can't. It only buys entitlement from the wrong people. If you are in a relationship where your partner compares you to others or demands an allowance for existing, run. Don't walk. Run. And keep your receipts. If you enjoyed watching a gold digger get buried in her own dirt, hit that subscribe button. It costs $0, which is exactly what my ex gets from me now.